Our chief reporter, Kaveh Solokol, has come back on set. Kaveh, oh my goodness. How do you react to that?
Well, look, the first thing you should say is that referees are human beings. They make mistakes like everybody else. They were working there in a very highly pressurised environment, and they made a mistake, and it was a big mistake.
It was supposed to be straightforward. Another fixture, another opportunity for Arsenal to assert their authority, to tighten their grip on a season built on discipline, identity, and relentless ambition. On paper, facing AFC Bournemouth should have been about execution, about letting football do the talking. Instead, it became something else entirely. Because once again, the conversation has been hijacked. Not by brilliance, not by tactics, not even by controversy in the traditional sense, but by the lingering, suffocating presence of VAR. A system introduced to bring clarity has instead deepened confusion. A tool designed to protect fairness has somehow become its greatest threat. From the first whistle, Arsenal were in control. You could see it in their shape, in the tempo, in the way they moved the ball with precision and purpose. Bournemouth were pinned back, forced into reactive football, chasing shadows as wave after wave of red shirts poured forward. The Emirates buzzed with expectation. It felt inevitable, not a matter of if, but when. And then came that moment. Midway through the second half, with the game still hanging in a delicate balance, Arsenal carved open Bournemouth's defence with a move of stunning simplicity. One pass split the midfield. Another unlocked the back line. The attacker burst into the penalty area, poised, ready, decisive. Then contact. Not the kind you have to squint to see. Not the kind that lives in the grey area. This was real, tangible, consequential. A defender lunged, mistimed, and clipped the Arsenal player just enough to disrupt his stride, just enough to deny a clear opportunity. In real time, it looked like a penalty. On replay, it looked even more obvious. The referee waved play on. For a split second, there was silence. Then came the eruption. Arms raised, voices shouting, disbelief spilling from every corner of the stadium. Players surrounded the official, demanding the decision be reviewed. Fans looked to the big screen, waiting for the inevitable intervention. This was VAR's moment. This was exactly why VAR exists. And yet, nothing. The check began. The tension built. Seconds turned into an agonizing wait as millions watched, expecting common sense to prevail. But then, in a decision that defied logic, expectation, and the very purpose of the system, VAR chose not to intervene. No penalty. No review at the monitor. No correction. Just a quiet confirmation that the on-field decision would stand. How do you explain that? How do you justify a system that can analyze every angle, slow down every frame, and still arrive at a conclusion that contradicts what the naked eye could see in real time? What is the threshold for clear and obvious if that doesn't meet it? Because this wasn't marginal. It wasn't subjective. It wasn't one of those incidents where opinions are split down the middle. This was the kind of decision that, in any other era, any other context, would have been given without hesitation, and that's where the frustration turns into something deeper. Because for Arsenal, this is no longer an isolated incident. It's a pattern. A recurring narrative that continues to follow them week after week. Moments where the stakes are high, the margins are thin, and the decisions just don't go their way. Fans have seen this story before. Too many times. They've watched goals disallowed under microscopic scrutiny. They've seen penalties ignored despite clear evidence. They've endured explanations that feel more like deflections than clarity. And now, against Bournemouth, they've witnessed yet another moment where the system simply didn't do its job. Or worse, chose not to. What makes it even more infuriating is the inconsistency. Because elsewhere, in other matches, similar incidents are given. Sometimes with less contact. Sometimes with less consequence. Yet here, in a moment that could have defined the outcome of the game, nothing. It raises uncomfortable questions. Is the application of VAR truly consistent across the league? Are the officials operating under a unified standard, or is interpretation varying from game to game, referee to referee, situation to situation? And perhaps most concerning of all, has the system become so cautious, so reluctant to overturn decisions, that it's now failing in the very scenarios it was designed to fix? These aren't just philosophical concerns. They have real consequences. For Arsenal, this wasn't just about a penalty. It was about momentum. About belief. About capitalizing on dominance in a game where they had done everything right. In a title race or even a top 4 battle, these moments matter. Points aren't just dropped, they're taken away by decisions that feel beyond the control of the players. And for the fans, it cuts even deeper. Because football is emotional. It's visceral. It's built on the idea that what you see is what you get, that effort, quality, and determination will ultimately shape the outcome. VAR was supposed to reinforce that belief, to eliminate the injustice that comes with human error. Instead, it has introduced a new kind of frustration. One where decisions are delayed, dissected, and still somehow wrong. One where the explanation is often more confusing than the incident itself. One where trust is slowly eroding. As the match wore on, Arsenal tried to push past the controversy. They continued to attack, to probe, to search for a breakthrough that should have already come. But something had shifted. The rhythm was disrupted. The edge was blunted. And in games like this, those subtle changes can be decisive. When the final whistle blew, the result felt secondary. Because the real talking point wasn't the score, Aline, it was the decision. The moment that should have been corrected but wasn't. The incident that will be replayed, analyzed, debated, and ultimately added to a growing list of grievances. Pundits will discuss it. Former players will question it. Fans will rage about it, and somewhere, deep within the machinery of officiating, it will likely be acknowledged quietly, internally, without consequence. But that doesn't change what happened. Arsenal were denied. Again. And the bigger question lingers: how many times can this happen before something gives, before the system is forced to confront its own flaws, before accountability becomes more than just a buzzword? Because right now, it doesn't feel like progress. It feels like regression. VAR was meant to bring clarity. Instead, it has blurred the lines. It was meant to deliver justice. Instead, it has created doubt. And for Arsenal, on this frustrating, infuriating day against Bournemouth, it has once again taken center stage, not as a solution, but as the problem.